Good morning. Was the Trump assassination attempt an insider coup by the government, or was it just incompetence by the Secret Service? The fact that people are questioning this just goes to how little we trust our government, because we've seen all the things the Democrats have done to take Trump out, which I talked about in a video yesterday. Rightly or wrongly, they've tried all kinds of things, and an assassination attempt would be the last one. It seems very odd that a lone gunman, a 20-year-old kid, could get on a rooftop within a few hundred yards of the president's rally and fire a gun. And if Trump had been a quarter inch more to one side with his head, killed him. In fact, the father in the crowd who lay on top of his child or family to protect them, he caught a shot, and apparently his brain gray matter exploded all over the place. So that could have been Trump's brain exploding all over the place. What's very odd is that this is a lone gunman, and we know that the CIA and the FBI, whoever, all these people, they do these kind of like setup things. There was, I don't remember the name of this, but there was in the 90s in Portland when the FBI wanted to have the terrorist task force and the mayor of Portland didn't want to participate in it. The FBI staged a fake terrorism attack. They found someone, a gullible person, to do like this terrorist attack, and then they stopped him just in time, arrested him, and told the mayor, "See, terrorists, you need to join our task force." And the mayor did. I remember on Breaking Point a few years ago when they were talking about how the FBI radicalizes different people to try to get them to perform criminal acts, then catches them in the act as a way to scare people and be like, "Look, we have terrorists, we need to spy on you." They're called false flag operations. In fact, that's what happened during Pearl Harbor. It was also considered by some to be a false flag operation that was allowed to be had so that the U.S. could put nuclear weapons in Japan. So it's not beyond possible that this could happen. Okay, it's not beyond impossible that this could happen. So that's the first thing I want to say. I've been watching like a number of different like super hot sniper guys and gun guys on YouTube, like muscly tattooed, like masculine guys. I'm like, oh my God, these guys are so hot. Talking about how this is impossible to have been done like accidentally or as an oversight. The second thing I want to say is I agree with Candace Owens. I don't always agree with her, but she makes a really good point today or yesterday on Twitter, is about why we have women in the Secret Service, because the head of the Secret Service has a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion mandate that she said she wants 30% of the Secret Service to be women. Now, Trump is 6'5". I'm 5'3". You want someone to be as tall as the president because in an accident, you got to cover his body. And some of the guys on the videos were talking about, like the training that goes into like a SEAL Team 6 or one of these very highly trained men, how quick they have to run, how on target point they have to be with their weapon, how quick they have to make decisions. And isn't that the kind of guy you want protecting the president? And maybe pay them a little bit more. And Candace Owens kind of says the truth about why are women protecting men. This is fucking backwards, people. She says, men are strong. Let men protect men. It is a joke to have women protecting men. That is a joke. Physically protecting men, that is a joke. I agree with her. Why are there women in the Secret Service, in the military, in the fire department, in all of these physically demanding protective jobs? Women have no place in those jobs, in my opinion. You can disagree. You can put women in there. I'm not going to like have like a get all upset over it. In my opinion, it just makes no sense. It makes no sense. There's also a thing about muscle memory. Some of the guys that were analyzing the female Secret Service asset or person noticed that when she had her gun out, she couldn't find her holster. That is very bad. When you have like a trained rifle person or marksman, I don't know all the words, you have muscle memory. You can instinctively get it in and out, and you're very quick and you're very strong. So that is kind of, they were asking for trouble more or less. And then the other thing is the sniper on the roof that finally did take out this lone gunman, quote unquote, said supposedly that he had him in his viewfinder for 3 minutes, but he was told not to shoot. I do not know what the orders are or the rules of engagement for a sniper. I do not know, but that's what some people are saying, is that in a war you can just shoot, but here you can't just shoot because, what if you don't really know the situation. I guess you have to wait for the first shot to be fired. I'm not really sure, but now why would they want to take out Trump? The deep state, okay? I'm not blaming Hillary for it, although there are some Democrats who are very, very upset that it didn't happen as intended. They don't like, even though Trump is a warmonger, he's the one that ordered the assassination of that Iranian president Soleimani. He's the one that got weapons into Ukraine, okay, that led to finally Russia attacking Ukraine. He seems more interested in dismantling NATO and ending the war in Ukraine, and that they cannot have. That they cannot have. Do not want the evil power in the world is the NATO. They are very angry with Viktor Orban for even meeting with Putin. They're very mad at him, and now Slovakia is saying we're not gonna agree to have Ukraine join NATO. They're very angry, very angry. They do not want anyone to be the president who is going to dismantle NATO and the criminal war alliance. That's what they don't want. Now, I think Trump is very unpredictable. I'm not a fan of him. He's all out for himself like they all are. The only thing I like about Trump is that he sort of tries to end the wars, and maybe he will try, but they can't have that. The West, the NATO, all of Europe, the US, deep state, CIA, Pentagon, they want wars. And they're living in a bubble. Like they're trying to, I don't know what they think they're going to get. They think they can defeat Russia and China and weaken them. Why are we in the South China Sea? What business is it of ours? I was talking to someone the other day. It was like, well, Putin is a dictator. I'm like, so what? Who cares? Let him be a dictator. Why do we care? As long as he's not a threat to our country and we can trade with him, why do we care? And this person didn't know what to say because it's true. None of our business. Okay, why do we have to take over Taiwan? Oh, because they make semiconductors. Let them make semiconductors. Why don't we make semiconductors? Why are we trying to start wars halfway around the world? For no reason. These people are not hurting us. They're not a threat. Maybe they're stronger than we are because we're busy fighting wars instead of investing in our own economy. By the way, Trump just also gives tax cuts to the rich. If Trump is elected, this is the other thing people don't get. They're like, Biden or Trump, it's the elites because they want their positions of power. When it comes to everyday man and woman like me, whether Biden or Trump is in power makes no difference because they have already been in power. We've had a Trump presidency and we had a Biden presidency. They both gave us tax cuts for the rich, printed trillions of dollars, tried to force the COVID vaccine on us. They both did the lockdown. They both protected Wall Street. They both protected Big Pharma. They both kept the wars going. Neither of them addressed any of the domestic issues. I don't know if they didn't want to, or if they're not allowed to, or they kept from doing it. I don't know. But we put so much emphasis on Trump versus Biden without realizing that we're only given two very similar choices, that neither of them really has any power to change that much, and that running behind the scenes is this momentum of wars. What we really need to be talking about is the devaluation of the dollar, the decline of the US empire, and how we're neglecting things in our own country. We should be pulling out of all of these, should take all this money and all these bases, bring all these soldiers back home, and focus on improving our own country. I'm going to go on a tangent. The reason that house prices and stock prices are so high is because it's inflation. People think it's so great that their house prices are so high. Well, try to sell your house. You can't sell your house. Try to sell your house. Who's going to buy it? And what other house are you going to buy? You can't afford to sell your house. It's not good. It's an unhealthy housing market. Hey, I was a realtor for many years. This is how the real estate market works. You have the first-time home buyer, and ideally they have 10 or 20% down, because I'm going to make a separate video on the housing market. I'm going to stop this video here, and I'm going to call this Trump assassination attempt, accident, or cover-up. I'll be back for the comments, you guys. And I know at some point today I need to make a video about sex, because that's what this channel is supposed to be about. But lately, I tell you, the reason that I'm so interested in this is I was never that interested in geopolitical events. In fact, I recently had to buy a globe to even see where Israel is on the map. That's how ignorant I am, okay? Because I'm so disinterested in all this stuff. And I knew we had wars in Syria and Lebanon, or wherever all the wars were. I didn't really pay much attention to it. It didn't seem to affect me. And those are just dark-skinned people that can't relate to. But I'm like 80% of like Eastern European heritage. My grandparents are from Azerbaijan. I have a family member who lived in Ukraine many years. I know people from Ukraine. They're more like Europeans. They're more like Germans. They're like these white people. So when these white people got in a war with other white people, I started paying attention. And Ukraine, and also because of Russia. As I was a little girl in Germany, growing up, we had East Germany and West Germany. And then when the wall came down, I was so impressed by Russia. I had like a rush of love in my heart that they actually took down the wall and retreated. Who does that anymore? And all the years they tried to scare us about Russia, oh, hide under your desk in case there's a nuclear attack. Russia's bad and all this. But another reason I got really interested is because I believed everything the mainstream media was telling me. I watched all the Mueller report stuff. I watched all the Russiagate stuff. And I had like my brother would always tell me that the media is like owned by a few organizations and they just peddle propaganda. And I kept arguing with him. I'm like, no, they're reporting the news. They're telling me the news. I trust these people. Rachel Maddow, she's so hot. And Jeff Williams on the 11th Hour and Morning Joe. I watched all that stuff. I believed everything. They're so charming and believable. And during when it came out that the Russiagate thing was all false and they never apologized, I realized that they're willing to lie to me, or they're willing to make mistakes and not apologize. And then I realized that they're probably lying. And then during the whole COVID thing, the whole mask of the media came off. That's when the moment they did the lockdown and none of the media complained or questioned it, I was instantly, their mask came off. I instantly saw the light. And I started getting, watching more YouTube videos and started watching different journalists who had left the corporate media and were doing their own independent reporting. Also former CIA intelligence analysts and military analysts who are being interviewed on different channels. People like Scott Ritter, who was the weapons inspector in Iraq. And he's the one that told Bush there are no weapons of mass destruction. But they went forward anyway. There's Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone. Kim Iverson has a show. I can't remember them all. And then you have people like Jimmy Dore who just speak out. You know, some of those comedians love to also give the news. And these are not just like angry, like citizens. These are people who have worked in the government. Jeffrey Sachs, an economist who's still very involved with talking to insiders in different nations. He goes to the UN meetings. I said Scott Ritter. John Mersheimer. Like reputable people who actually present a very different view. And then I started learning why Russia invaded Ukraine, because I knew that, well, people who attack, they often they can do it out of like a zealousy because they just hate you, or they can do it because they're retaliating against being oppressed. So I got really curious, like, what is this thing with Russia and Ukraine? Like, why are they doing this? And I started looking into it, and then I learned that the US in 2014 overthrew the Ukrainian elected president in a coup because this guy was friendly with Putin and they wanted to weaken Russia. It's like one of their goals. And then they started putting all these military assets into Ukraine, NATO and US military assets, for 8 years before Russia finally had enough. Russia kept saying, stop, let's do a peace deal, stop. They're like, no, we're going to keep going. And then Trump comes along, and although he did put some weapons in there, he's the one saying NATO's too big. He wasn't a fan of NATO. He went to meet with Putin. And when he went to meet with Putin and Kim Jong-un, I was very happy because we need diplomacy. We need a straight line between our presidents. We need to get along. But do you know how many people were angry and they belittled him and gaslit him? For diplomacy and statesmanship is now called being a traitor to your country because it's better to just start wars with people. These people are crazy in the head. They started getting mad. Now, I'm not saying Trump was, pure in his efforts. Maybe he wanted to deal with Putin because he can build Trump towers in Russia. Who knows? I'm sure there was something in it for him. But maybe he just doesn't like war, just like he doesn't like drugs. Maybe he'd rather make his money off building stuff in Gaza rather than the Ukraine. I really don't know. I'm not trying to say he's better. But the deep state and NATO did not like Trump meeting with Putin. And now that they tried everything to take him out, the false investigations, all the criminal charges, and none of it worked. So the final thing would be to try to assassinate him. And that's what some people were predicting would happen. Because he's against starting wars with Russia, probably against starting a war with China. Although he's happy with the war in Israel, he's okay with Gaza being bombed and the genocide. He doesn't mind that. He's not like a pure person by any means. But this explains why the deep state, the war criminals want to take him out, in my opinion. Now, there are a bunch of different snipers I followed on Twitter who were talking about how that was definitely an inside job to allow this gunman to shoot at the president, that there was someone on the inside who had to allow it. Or maybe it's just incompetence. Why the fuck would you put these 5'5" women to protect the president? That's just stupid. The reports that the Secret Service was overworked, they were short on people, they were overworked, and all this stuff. So I'm sure more news will come out. I'm like not a news station, but I'm like, I have to make a video on this because I want to be on the record of saying that this could very well have been like a coup by the deep state, the same people that killed Kennedy. But now we have social media. We have Twitter, we have TikTok, we have YouTube. And none of these people are censored. If Elon Musk had not bought Twitter, we would probably not have all this information. Because apparently the Denver Post reported this as gunman attacked at a rally. You know, they spin stuff. But Elon Musk owns Twitter, so we can say whatever we want on Twitter. And TikTok, I think, is the same. YouTube still has free speech. So if you're getting your news anywhere other than the mainstream media, you're going to get a lot more quick insights. People have their cameras, they're reporting stuff. Like the average citizen and independent journalists are reporting things. And so it's harder to get away with stuff like this. If we didn't have all the social media, they could just be like, oh, crazy gunmen, you know, got up on a roof, and it would all be blown over. Probably. They can't do it anymore. They can't do it anymore. Okay, thank you for watching my video.